Welcome back to the ABNF Podcast. Nick, we have another special guest with us today on our 17th episode. Nick, do you want to introduce our special guest?
Yeah, so this is my older brother, Frankie LaVere. He's a big sports fan. He's been wanting to hop on the podcast for a while, but we've had other guests that
are more important.
No, I wouldn't say more important. They just asked earlier than you. So we had to make sure we had our, we had to give respect to the people that had dibs first. And
That's
plus, and this is the episode I think you wanted to be on anyways, because we have a great episode. Obviously the NBA is a dead period still. So we're going to be talking about the Chicago Bulls. This is a Chicago Bulls podcast. So I know Frankie's been excited to get on this episode. So Frankie, welcome to the show, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you guys. I just enjoy hearing myself talk. A lot of people tell me that. So thank you guys for having me so I can hear myself talk.
That's great having you on the show, Frankie. Nice to actually meet you as well. And I know that this should be a really good debate because all of us are Chicago fans, and how we all feel about Jerry Reinsdorf and the front office. So, yeah. So, Nick, what are we going to talk about today with the Chicago Bulls?
So we're going to be talking about a lot. We might go back in history a little bit, talk about the history of like Jerry Krause and like back in those 90s days with the Bulls. And then after that happened, we're going to talk about the D-Rose era. We're going to talk about our frustrations with the current front office, the ownership of Jerry Reinsdorf refusing to go over the luxury tax every year. We expressed our frustrations about that a couple of podcast episodes ago, but since this is an all Bulls podcast, we're going to be ripping the front office to shreds. We're going to be ripping Jerry Reinsdorf to shreds. We're going to rip this roster to shreds because as Bulls fans today, we are very, very frustrated. We were promised a lot by this new front office, and to be honest, shit hasn't really happened. So.
No, man, I definitely agree with that. I would definitely say that this episode, I know our name is All Ball, No Foul, but this episode is going to definitely be foul against Jerry Reinsdorf and everybody else. And to kind of even start off, man, like, let's just take it back 2 years ago, right? We have this whole like big off season. They bring in Lonzo Ball, you bring in Alex Caruso on the first day of the off season, and then out of nowhere into a week into the offseason, we're seeing DeMar DeRozan on the Bulls, and it just kind of feels like, wow, the Bulls are back. Like, we really feel like we're going to have a chance this year to at least do something special. And I feel like that magic has died since that first round playoff series against the Milwaukee Bucks. And ever since then, it's just been all downhill. So what are your guys' feelings right now on the current status of the Bulls? I guess, where do we feel where they're at this right now, like literally right now?
Frankie, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
Oh, I'll go first because I have a special word that the Chicago Bulls team is. The word is purgatory. That is what they are. They're not in hell, where they're the worst franchise in all of basketball, and they're certainly not in heaven like the Golden State Warriors or the Milwaukee Bucks, or I don't want to say the Phoenix Suns there, or the Phoenix Suns are there yet, but they're getting there. So the Bulls have been in purgatory for quite a long time now in the history that this organization has, thanks to Michael and Scotty that built
and
this
D-Rob.
franchise.
Shout out to Dennis Rodman.
I love Dennis. I would party with him. I think my wife's upstairs. Anywho, it's embarrassing as a Bulls fan. It's depressing to watch. There's my thing on watching all sports, including basketball. There's no like defensive intensity out there. So me, I'm 5'9". What the heck am I going to do? It's like, crap, I wish I was 6'7" and the athletic ability to be strong like these guys can and shut people down. Like, this Bulls team just looks lazy to me too.
Yeah.
Alex, like continuing off what Frankie just said, obviously I agree with everything you just said. I brought this up a couple of podcast episodes ago. Like, this roster in general, it just doesn't really make sense. Your top three players, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic, they're very talented offensively, but they do not try on the defense end of the floor whatsoever. And then you got really good defensive players on this team. Alex Caruso, Javon Carter's going to be a good defender on this team this year. There's a couple other guys, but
Torrey Craig.
They're not. Torrey Craig, Ayo Dosunmu, but they're not offensive threats.
That's true. That's true.
And I've noticed Patrick Williams is the only guy on this team that can do both. Obviously he hasn't been able to show it offensively as much because they keep him on the floor with the three to be the starting power forward. And obviously he can't show his offensive potential. But when he actually has his opportunities, he's really blossomed. But that's why I understand. Like, if we're a 500-ish team and Lonzo Ball is not getting, he's already been ruled out for the entire year, this upcoming season. Like, why didn't you make a trade? We got to get Patrick Williams. We got to get Dalen Terry's not even going to get any minutes now. You signed Torrey Craig. Just like, I just don't get this roster. I don't get this rotation. Why did we re-sign Ayo Dosunmu too if we signed Javon Carter? And I like Javon Carter, Alex Caruso, and Kobe White better than Ayo Dosunmu. So if we sign Ayo Dosunmu to $7 million a year just to sit on the bench, I mean, we could have used that money for something else. Maybe we could have added that $7 million per year for Grant Williams, but no, we decided to be cheap and sign Torrey Craig instead because Jerry Reinsdorf once again is afraid to go over to luxury when the Bulls sell out every game regardless. Like, I brought this up too a couple episodes ago. Like, Paul Zipser was our starting small forward at one point 7 years ago. And we still sold out every game. It was still hard to find Bulls tickets out there, even when we were winning like barely over 30 games.
Hey man,
Paul Zipser.
I was literally watching Paul Zipser with Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade, and Rajon Rondo, and that man cannot cook. So
even before which Shaquille Harrison was our starting point guard.
Bro, you're just getting me back and down to the days like Frankie said, purgatory, man. That was painful. That was painful to watch, bro. I can tell you right now, the only guy that was recognizable on the floor was Robin Lopez. That was the only person on the Bulls that you recognized. Everybody else looked like a bunch of trash bags.
At least he played hard too.
Yeah,
I'll give him that. 100%. He did play hard. I'll give him that. 100%.
That's why I enjoyed watching him because he busted his ass.
And I think
enjoy
Frankie,
players that bust their ass.
Yeah, and Frankie, you brought up the perfect word because the Bulls, they're one of maybe 3 franchises currently that still had no idea what direction they want to go. It's like the Bulls are kind of waiting on Lonzo because they knew that they were the number 1 overall seed with Lonzo. They put the right team around him. Lonzo has expressed that on the Trae Young podcast. That was a very interesting episode, by the way. But just like I said, this front office, they promised that they were going to spend a lot of money this offseason. They got their approval of the ownership to go over to luxury, and that just didn't happen. So, as Bulls fans, we keep being told one thing, but actually the complete opposite happened. So that's where our frustrations come into play as Bulls fans.
Yeah, and I think too, another thing with the Bulls right now is I just feel like because of the Lonzo injury, like you pointed out, we still lack something like the Celtics. And this is something that we've harped on the Celtics in multiple episodes on this show, is that they don't have a true point guard. And clearly this offense is supposed to be built around Lonzo. It's not built for somebody else to run. Kobe White, as much as I think he's a great guard, he's not a point guard. He's a scoring guard. That's who he is as a person, right?
He's a streaky shooter.
Yes. Alex Caruso, he's a great guard. He's not a true point guard. Like, he can bring the ball up, but he's not going to be the playmaker for you that's going to get other people involved in the offense. Zach LaVine is a kind of a volume shooter who can get his own. He doesn't really create for others. I feel like one of the only people that I feel tries to create for others is DeMar, and that's not DeMar's game. DeMar has never been that guy that's your leading assist getter. Like, that's basically what I feel like the Bulls have been trying to do, is like, AK wants to wait for Lonzo, and it's like, okay, I get it. Like, we gave it a year, but now this is year 2, and we're still having the same issue with the knee, and I don't think it's going to get any better. And look, I get Zoe has to defend himself with Stephen A. I don't blame him, but dude, focus on your rehab, focus on getting back to 100%, because if you do stuff like this on Twitter, what are people supposed to expect? Your knee looks fine, so why can't you play on the floor? If you're trying to prove that, where in the world are we going wrong then? We're paying you $80+ million and we're not seeing any results except 30 games.
So what was Lonzo's diagnosis? Like nerve damage or something along those lines?
So he tore his meniscus. It was a slight tear in his meniscus, I believe, back last year, 2022. So it had been 2 seasons ago. And from what I know is that it was successfully repaired. And when he started going through rehab processing and he was trying to get back to like game speed, that's when his knee started not feeling right. So they said that something must have happened during the surgery that like they didn't catch. And that's where these multiple knee surgeries have like come into place.
That sounds like a lawsuit.
For real.
Like,
I mean, whoever did this.
Honest to God.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is like I don't know, I'm not gonna blame the doctor for it, but
Oh yeah, of course.
Things like this can happen to anybody,
Oh,
unfortunately.
absolutely.
And I feel like with the NBA, like knee injuries have been a very infamous thing. Brandon Roy is a very good example, degenerative knees. And that's a worry with Lonzo, because Lonzo's always had the health. He's always been like not healthy. Like he was ever since his rookie year. He's always had an issue. It's his foot. It's his knee. It's his wrist. So it's like the Bulls knew what they were doing when they took that risk. And it was a great reward, but it was high risk. So we're taking basically the consequences of that. And I don't know, but for you guys, do you guys feel like the Bulls are even going to make the playoffs this year? Like based off of what we did in the offseason? And Frankie, if you want to go first and how you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to get my hopes up high. Do I think the Bulls can make the playoffs? Yes. I think they can. However, they don't. I'm not knocking like DeMar or Zach, but who is that true pit bull bulldog leader that we have that can lead the charge? DeMar's quiet. I wish he was our leader. Do you look at Zach LaVine as our leader? He's another quiet guy, but he's more of a prima donna. He'll cry at the referee when he doesn't get his way, and he doesn't play hard on defense. So how can you be a leader of a ball club when you don't play on both sides of the court? So I'm going, and I hate the play-in thing. I think it's so silly, but I'm going the Bulls make the play-in, and if I pray enough to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, they make the playoffs.
What are you thinking?
I'm kind of thinking the same. I mean, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. I think the East those top 6 teams are going to be pretty much what they were last year for the most part, except for Miami. I think Miami will actually get into the top 6 instead of making it all the way to the finals from a
that was insane. Yeah, that was
even
crazy.
though the Bulls were up 3 with. Don't get me going on that play-in game. I'm sorry.
No, I'll tell you why they lost. I'll tell you why they lost that game, because DeMar DeRozan's daughter was not there screaming. That is why the Chicago Bulls did not leave Miami victorious, because of DeMar, that little cutie. She wasn't there. DeMar said, I don't know if she had to be at school. I would have pulled her ass out of school, put her behind the bench, and have her screaming her ass off. That's why the Bulls lost, and no one can change my mind on that.
Yeah, so I mean, when you really think about it, you're gonna have Boston, you're gonna have Milwaukee, you're gonna have. I think Harden's gonna show up, so Philly's gonna be in there. You're gonna have Cleveland, you're gonna have New York. New York added some pieces, and then obviously Miami. Did I name 6 teams? Am I missing one?
Did you mentioned the Knicks, right? And the Cavs?
I mentioned the Knicks, Miami, the Cavs, and then Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly. Those should be the 6.
Yeah,
and then obviously Atlanta's gonna be. Decent. They still got DeJounte Murray and Trae Young and stuff. So
and they
the
have
Bulls,
Snyder,
I think
coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bulls are going to make the plan, and then depending on the matchups, maybe they could get in. Maybe they'll win a play-in game and then lose the second game, just like they did this last season. But Indiana got better too now.
Yeah, and they're going to be a sneaky team.
Yeah, they're going to be a sneaky team this year too. So I think the Bulls make the plan. I don't expect anything else after that. Mm-hmm. And then it's gonna be interesting though, because what if they are actually like 7-ish games under 500 going to the trade deadline? You think now they're gonna finally, DeMar only has 1 year left on his deal, and he could get 4 years, like 150 million. So you think the Bulls are gonna pay him?
No, I don't think so.
And how cheap Jerry Bryant is. So I think if they're 5-7 games under, I think DeMar's gonna be gone.
Get rid of Zach first.
I feel like
I'm tired of him. I'm tired of Zach being lazy on defense. Oh, good God, when I watch those games. Trots up and down the court. Like, dude, you're getting paid millions of dollars. I can't even go to a game, enjoy a $15 beer and watch you hustle on both sides of the court without getting aggravated.
I feel you on that, Frankie. When I was at the Knicks game in the Bulls last December, I literally watched Zach just pout 3 possessions in a row. He didn't get his call, and he didn't run back on defense, and it was literally easy fast breaks, and the Knicks went up by 15 points. And
But in Zach's defense, he's not the only NBA player that does that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'd say
it's 90% of the league.
They're all prima donna, little spoiled brats that wouldn't last in the 90s with Jordan, Rodman, Pittman, Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller, etc. They would all get bodied. And they would probably, if they drove to the basket and got hit, they would probably retire. They would, because these and they're even bigger and stronger now.
Yeah.
I just think that they're all soft. I think the majority of the NBA players, especially the entire Chicago Bulls team, you guys are soft basketball players. I know that's a game now. I know that's the game, but they're a part of the problem, these players. They're prima donnas. They should be getting their nails done in the nail salon and not on the basketball court playing their ass off.
And the thing is, too, I think Billy Donovan just doesn't get on these guys hard enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like he's just one of those coaches. He's just there. He's literally, he didn't coach as hard as when he was in Oklahoma. He coached his butt off when he was at Oklahoma because he knew he was in the Western Conference. He didn't have that much of a talented team, find ways to make the playoffs, et cetera, things of that nature. But I feel like even during these post-game interviews, like when you're listening to him, even when they lose, or because they've blown a lot of games this past year too.
And they did.
He's just nonchalant about it. It just seems like when he's coaching, he doesn't show any emotion, I feel like. And plus his late game rotations, there was a lot of questionable rotations this year. So I hope he's able to correct that this year. I'm scratching my head while watching some of these games, why what's going on? Why isn't he on the floor? I feel like he kind of tries to go by who the best players are on the team instead of who's actually playing really well that game.
And one of the lineups, Nick, that I really don't like that he runs is when Alex Caruso plays a forward. Look, I get small ball, but dude, you cannot have.
He's too small.
He's 6'4".
As great of a defender he is, he's too small. Yeah,
how tall is Alex Caruso?
I think he's
like 6'4".
He's got to be 6'4". There is no.
As a power forward.
Yeah, they're playing.
Well, sometimes they ran that small ball lineup. Yeah, he'd be the 4 sometimes.
Yeah,
just because he's that pit bull on the team. He's a very good defender. He always plays 110%.
Yeah, I love
Alex Caruso. He's like the one guy on this Bulls team. He does not care what he puts up offensively. He could be 1 for 6 in a game with 3 points, but then he could have 4 steals, 7 rebounds,
he knows his
6
role.
assists. He could, he knows his role. That's another issue with this Bulls team too. Is not everyone is just playing their role really so much.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you boys this. Could you, in my opinion, and this goes with every sports team, when the players aren't playing well, I think that a lot of them aren't getting along either behind the scenes. And when players clash, don't the coaches clash? And then it's it goes up, and up. I think everything starts at the top. And that's with any job, any sports team, anything. Issues begin at the top and it goes down south. And the players get looked at as the problems because they're the ones on the court playing. So I think the problem is more than just the players on the court.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the ownership, just like with Jerry Reinsdorf, it's been an issue. Even with the good days with Derrick Rose, Lou Aldane, Joakim Noah, those guys, even though the Bulls were really good teams, they still were unwilling to go over to luxury. They were still unwilling to try to put the best pieces around Derrick Rose. Yeah, we got Carlos Boozer because we couldn't get Dwayne Wade LeBron. That free agency was insane. We got Carlos Boozer and stuff, but
Boozer wasn't bad at the time.
He wasn't.
Yeah,
he wasn't. No, it's not that he wasn't bad, but it's just we had a lot of cap space at that time. We just didn't really use it up, and they tried to play so many different shooting guards around Rose. They tried the Ronnie Brewers. They tried the older Rip Hamiltons. Keith Bogans. Yeah. And stuff like that too. And I just feel
they all played hard though, man.
100%.
Yeah, no, that was a way different team. But way different team.
I just feel the front office, especially with John Paxson and them too, they were unwilling to ever pull the trigger to try to put themselves over the top on paper. That's the problem.
I got to say this real quick, and I was just thinking about it. But do you remember when Melo could have become a Bull in 2014? But they were so unwilling to pay him more.
Create more cap space.
Yeah. And the thing was, it was either take Paul Gasol or take Carmelo Anthony. And obviously Paul Gasol was going to be on a cheaper contract. He was, he was up there in age, he's not going to command that kind of deal. But the fact that like they were unwilling to go on the luxury tax and they believed they were just a Carmelo Anthony piece away from being a contender, right? And they almost made it to the finals that year. I still think the timeout and not being called and that should have been attacked. Still think we should have been up 3-1 against Cleveland. That's, but think about that. Because I would say with Melo, you have another scorer next to Rose. Butler was ascending. I think that team had enough. And
Noah was still pretty good too.
Yeah.
Joakim Noah's my guy, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He is the heart and soul of Chicago. Yeah. Man. And that is Bulls. That's Bulls culture right there. Like I would say, like we talk about Heat culture, right? But a guy like Joakim Noah was part of Bulls culture. I would even say Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler, when he was on the Bulls, like he definitely like.
Oh, he played hard too.
Yeah. But like those guys, like you don't see that anymore. So
everyone's lazy.
Yeah. I think too, it's kind of crazy that Zach LaVine is the highest paid Bulls player ever. Like, how is it that we have the greatest player to ever play the sport of basketball, and he never had the highest paid contract out of anybody that played on the Bulls? Isn't that kind of crazy?
It was just the revenue. That's why,
money's so different now. Like
international, globally, globally, it's not what it was.
100%.
Obviously, there were still there was some good international players, but now you can argue the top, 4 out of the top 5 players in the league are international talent. You can make that argument now. Jokic, Giannis. I don't have Embiid in my top 5 personally, but some people have Embiid in there. Some people have Luka Doncic, obviously in the top 5. Things of that nature too. So it's like, and SGA, Canada too. He's a borderline top 10 player in the league too. So it's like. Internationally, this game is growing more and more and more. And you saw it in this draft. 3 players literally from France were picked in the first round, I believe, in this draft alone.
Yeah. And I think that's just kind of a sign of the times. And I agree with what you're saying with the whole thing about the 90s. But I was just saying more of like, it's crazy. But then again, Jordan also was only playing on 1-year deals and they were still giving him about, I think it was like $35 to $40 million. So it was a lot of money. For sure. But I think it's kind of crazy that the Bulls, even with the cap space, being spiked up and stuff now, is like it took until 2021 to do that. And I think that just proves something. But Jerry Reinsdorf. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, don't forget too that Scottie Pippen, he was a top 5, 7-ish player in the league at those times, especially when they were starting to win those championships. He was the 122nd highest paid player in the league. The guy was a star. You saw after Jordan left to play baseball how good he actually was when he was the first option. He could have been a first option anywhere else. He was just a perfect player with Jordan.
That's facts.
You know what I'm saying? And Jerry Reinsdorf goes, no. You signed this 7-year, $19 million contract. You're gonna wait till after that contract is over. Well, that's Scottie's fault for signing that contract, absolutely. But man, you see it. 75% of these contracts out, they don't wait till the full contract's over. They always renew it.
Oh, yeah.
They get restructured all the time. It's not just in basketball. It's in every sport, too.
Yeah.
Like football and stuff. Now you're seeing a bunch of these players. Aaron Rodgers took a massive pay cut.
I was just going to say
that.
I respect the hell out of that, by the way.
No, I'm saying that there's a lot of players now. Well, NFL mostly is taking pay cuts. NBA's more, no, I deserve this.
That's true.
I think NFL players should get more than NBA players. I understand the fact that you play way less games, but I played both sports and, football, man, that's different, man. It's a goddamn car crash out there. Basketball nowadays, if you accidentally slap someone on the ass, you're getting teed up and thrown out of the game. God forbid.
Like Stephen A. Smith said, if you pass gas, you can get a tap.
He's not wrong.
That's true, Frankie. No, I agree with that.
If I fired on the court, I get a 10-day suspension and $100,000 fine.
I'll give the NBA a little bit of credit though, just because now they're not giving like the Harden, Trae Young calls. You're not really seeing as many free throws as you used to be. Even though you're still seeing a ton of free throws and stuff, they're still calling a lot of ticky tack stuff. But man, the NBA needs to take a page out of the EuroLeague's books. They got to let them play a little bit more physical, man.
Yeah,
they just have to, especially late in stretches. There's been so many games that they either completely point blank miss calls, or it's something that they didn't call in the first or second quarter. Now you're calling it when the game is on the line.
For example,
I think all three of us can agree on one thing. We're not big LeBron fans. We're not. But that foul, he clearly got fouled against Boston when the game went to overtime. Yeah. Clear as day got fouled. I mean, as the refs, how do you miss that call? You can't miss that call. You should have clotheslined his ass. Call. You know what I'm saying? But like, there's games where like you're not calling in the first, second quarter, but you're gonna call it when the game is on the line. Now you're deciding to call when the game's tied. You're gonna call the foul with 1.5 seconds left. Now the free throw is gonna determine the game. You can't let stuff like that happen. That's the only thing I'll say.
Well, I think too. I think with sports gambling, how it's becoming more and more popular and accepting. I still think that some of these refs have scratch on these games. I'm sorry. I wouldn't be surprised. I think they do.
It's not that crazy to say it. I think that we all know every league has some dirt to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that there are definitely refs. I mean, look at Eric Lewis. You know, he was under investigation before he decided to all of a sudden retire.
Yeah, I just saw that today.
Saw that.
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, he's retiring?
Isn't he going through all this
crap?
And you know that. You know that there are refs that are biased. The whole joke about oh my God, not Joey Crawford, but the other ref that hates Chris Paul. Why am I blanking on his name?
He's the older white guy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. I can't think of his name. Wasn't it the ref that Chris Paul was like, and whatever in the playoffs when this guy was reffing?
Yeah. And like,
I can't think of his name.
When he's the crew chief, he always like, if he doesn't like a certain player, people always use that like superstition thing where it's like, oh, he just hates that guy. Like he does not want to see him win.
You never know, man.
That's true.
You never know.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's going to be the other thing though too, is like we do need to like have, people at least be a little more physical. And I think something that we saw in the playoffs a lot that really pissed me off was, like, look, I get it that like contact is always going to be called on the defender, right? And, if you're going to be the one that initiates the contact, technically if you're the guy with the ball, like you're going to get your call. I just think it's like, if you're already letting them play, why are you blowing the whistle after the layup was already missed? It's like, so you're not going to call it if they make it, but you're going to call it if they miss it. Well, How does that make sense? It should be an and one regardless. If you think it was a foul. Go ahead.
No, keep going. No. I like what you were saying. I was just going to say, you see that 5 to 10 times a game.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And it really ruins the dynamic of the game. Like I could tell you off like the top, like just like 5 instances where like you saw, hey, this team got another stop. This is about to be a fast break. And then the whistle gets blown and you see these players get pissed, because I would be pissed if I was a player like, hey, I did my job. I got the stop. Why the hell is the whistle being blown on me right now? And I feel like it just ruins the game. And it's like the same problem that we've seen with like other sports, like always trying to find a way to fix like the reffing or make the way the game fun or faster or something about it. And I feel like that's going to be something that needs to be fixed, because if they're fixing the flopping issue, which I think is something that's good, but I think they also need to fix that, because that's horseshit. Let's just all like agree with that. It's horseshit when you see that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. So going into our next topic a little bit, I'm going to ask you guys a question.
All right.
What do you think the Bulls starting 5 should be? They added, Javon Carter, Torrey Craig, who's going to be the starting, because we got a lot of guards on this team. So
let me pull up
Alex,
this depth chart.
You could go first, Alex.
All right.
If you were Billy Donovan, what would your starting 5 be if you were the coach of this team with this roster?
So with the roster that we have right now, I believe that Billy Donovan is going to start Javon Carter at the 1. I think that he'll be the starting point guard. I think Zach's still going to be the 2, DeMar at the 3. I'm still going to put Pat Will at the 4. I think that I wouldn't put Torrey Craig above him. Now, if it was Grant Williams, who we should have signed, I think he should have been the starter, and then you put Vooch at the 5. I think that would be it. But I think that it's going to still be the same lineup we saw last year, just instead of I think they started playing Pat Bev at the point guard when they got him.
They were paying him and Caruso together.
Yeah,
which
I wouldn't do that.
I understand that.
Yeah, I'd keep Pat at the 4. Let him continue to develop. I think that we haven't seen him fully develop, and I think that's going to continue to stunt his growth.
Yeah, I think what you do is he should be one of the first starters out, so he could start in the second quarter and be the main guy in the second unit. But I got another question too. I agree with that starting 5, by the way. But why would Ayo Dosunmu get $1 million more. This is what the front office makes no sense. Ayo signed for 3 years, $21 million. He might not even see the floor, but Javon Carter gets 3 for $20, and he's going to be the starter. Explain that one to me. That doesn't make any sense. You gave Ayo Dosunmu more money. He's the 4th point guard on this team. I'm just sorry. I mean, I love him. Illinois, Morgan Park State champion, great college basketball player at U of I. He really was one of the biggest reasons why that program has been in the national, the NCAA tournament every year recently, things of that nature. But, like, I'm sorry. Like, Alex Caruso's better, Kobe White's better, and Javon Carter's better. But, yeah, how did Ayo get more money than Javon Carter?
I have no idea. I have no answer to that, Frankie. Do you have a better answer? Because I don't.
Is it Chicago loyalty? I don't know what it is.
Shit, I'll sit on the bench for $21 million. You kidding me? I guarantee you I played better defense than Zach LaVine. I'll earn my $21 million. I'll sit on the bench and play defense when needed.
Hey, I'll be wheezing at the end, for all that sprinting back and forth, but that $21 million is going to be hitting my paycheck, like my pockets. So I'll take every dollar of that every day. But
just let me just pay me $500,000. Let me be Udonis Haslem in this damn team.
Dude, just sit on the bench, hype up the guys, coach them a little bit. To answer that question though for you, Nick, I really don't see where the front office goes a lot of times. I feel like AK wants to have this continuity thing, which I get it, but I think at the same time, the problem is that we do need to have some type of changes because every team upgrades just a little bit every year. We don't ever see necessarily the same exact team run it back. There's always 1 or 2 players that leaves. Like I can only think of
especially if a team is 500.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Like there's only one team I can think of that ran it back with every starter they had on their championship team, and that was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's a football team. Why are we, the Chicago Bulls, who were under 500 last year, trying to basically run it back with the same team and not trying to think about maybe at least more than just a little marginal move? Because those are marginal moves. We all know that. We can't lie to ourselves. I love Ayo. I think he was great his rookie year. I think his second year, it just kind of, it's that sophomore slump. Does he improve this year? No, because there's no minutes for him on this team in this current structure. You're going to basically either have to trade guys to show his value and show his growth, or you're going to have to trade him because you're not going to ever see the full product of Ayo. But it's the same thing that we could say with Pat Will. It'd be the same thing we could say with Dalen Terry. Could these guys be great? Sure. But will they ever? No, because you have guys like Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic all taking more shots. They're going to be the ones that are going to be touching the ball the most.
Mm-hmm. And also, Torrey Craig going to be playing about 20 minutes a game off the bench, too. Where's Dalen Terry's minutes going to come into play? He was one of the only first-round picks last year that hardly saw the floor. He was with the Windy City Bulls more than the Chicago Bulls.
I was going to say,
he was picked 17th or 18th overall.
He's going to get his minutes at Hoffman Estates and the Now Arena is where he's getting his minutes from. Not trying to hang on him.
No, and it's not his fault. It's the way this roster was constructed again by this front office. How is he supposed to develop when he's not going to see any minutes?
That's John Paxson.
I don't understand. I just don't get it whatsoever. It's like you said, Alex. Grant Williams was on a podcast. Was like, hey, the Bulls have major interest in me. The Bulls are acting like 3 years, $36 million is breaking the bank. I know the CBA changed a little bit. You can't go over $17.5 million over the luxury, or you receive a lot of penalties. Which, if you haven't watched our last episode, please go check that out.
Yes,
because we talked about the CBA a lot about that. But the Bulls were nowhere near over the luxury. So $12 million a year versus a Torrey Craig. What did Torrey Craig sign for exactly?
I can look that up real quick.
But I know it wasn't much, but it's just like the Bulls, what are you doing? Like, you're telling your fan base this, got the approval to do this. You sign the same exact players. Yeah, you sign a Javon Carter, nice player.
Yeah.
But if our issue is having a floor general point guard, that didn't solve anything.
All right.
I'm sorry. He's just another, maybe a little better scorer than Alex Caruso, but he's the same exact player. No disrespect.
Oh, 100%. Could you give me a drum roll? Because I'm going to give you the total number right here. I'll need a drum roll. All right, $5.4 million. That's all Torrey Craig is getting. That's it.
So they couldn't give $6 million extra for Grant Williams?
Nope.
I just laugh because it makes no sense.
It really
No
doesn't.
sense.
It really doesn't. And the thing is like, look, come on, guys. We all know Chicago is a huge city. We know that the market is big. We know that they're going to make money. The UC is always sold out, like you said, Nick. Reinsdorf is just a cheap ass. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know how he is. I mean, look at the Sox. You know, they're in like no better position
don't
right
get me
now
going.
themselves.
Please
I know.
don't get me going. We'll
I
be on
know
here
both
for
of you
3 more
guys
hours.
like will like literally
I
like.
can get. I don't give
Frankie's
a shit
a Cubs
about the
fan,
White
so
Sox.
he
I
love
love
Cubs
watching
fan,
you guys
okay.
struggle.
He would have a field day.
Oh, then you're on the side of like you don't got to worry about that. But I would just say this real quick. I don't want to get this all into baseball, but look at what the Cubs once they sold that team to a ownership group that actually wanted to help improve them. You saw the difference. So I feel like the same thing. I feel like the Bulls just need to be sold. This is not the 90s. This isn't the Jordan era anymore. It's not going to be that, it's just not that team. And we got to stop living in there.
I'll say this about Reinsdorf. He better be thanking Michael Jordan. And in my opinion, Nick's not going to like this, but the 2005 Chicago White Sox team had the biggest horseshoe of any World Series champions ever.
That's cap.
That's cap.
That's cap.
Not cap. Hold on. Did they make the playoffs the following year? If it wasn't for that horseshoe season,
they lost one playoff game.
Hold on.
That's one of the greatest postseason dominations you'll ever see, bro. They lost one playoff game by 1 run. They destroyed the defending champions, the Red Sox. They had to play the Angels, and they smoked the Astros in the World Series.
If it wasn't for Michael Jordan and that lucky ass 05 season, Reinsdorf would have 0 championships. So we could think Michael Jordan and the horseshoe lodged up Paul Konerko's ass. Boom.
A few moments later.
Welcome back, guys. After Frankie dropped the mic on that one with the Cubs and the Sox, we are back to talk a little more about the Bulls. And I know something that Nick mentioned earlier was the Jerry Reinsdorf, Jerry Krause era. Well, Jerry Reinsdorf still the owner, but Jerry Krause era of the Bulls in the 90s. Obviously, if you've watched The Last Dance, you know everything that you need to know about Jerry Krause. And my man had the Napoleon complex with him. And he said that organizations win championships, not players. So, guys, I want to hear, kind of, is this where it all started? Like going wrong for them, or just like, how do you guys feel? Because I feel like the Bulls still live in this fantasy of the 90s.
I'll say this. Obviously, the players at the end of the day, they're the ones on the floor doing the work. But it's not just the players. Obviously, Phil Jackson argues one of the greatest coaches in NBA history. They had Phil Jackson too. I just think Jerry Krause hated so much just because, they had the best dynamic duo in NBA history, Jordan and Pippen, and Jordan he's still outselling everybody. He hasn't even been playing in 30 years, 20 years. His shoe's still number one, and it's still going to be number one 50 years from now. I mean, that's just how iconic of a player that he was. He's the GOAT for a reason. That's a different discussion for another day. That's just facts. Sorry to the people that today, go watch some highlights. Go watch some hardwood classics of Michael Jordan. Go watch the 6-0 finals. Go watch him never allowing a game 7. Go watch him playing both sides of the floor. Again, all that, whatever. But I'll give Jerry Krause some credit though. I think I get what he's saying. Just like Frankie, you brought up in the beginning how it starts in the top. Mm-hmm. Technically, he is correct. They did draft Michael Jordan 3rd overall. And obviously Jerry Krause made the move to trade for Scottie Pippen at the draft. They didn't draft Scottie Pippen.
No.
They made the trade to acquire Scottie Pippen.
Yep, his draft rights.
You know what I'm saying? And and also, he's the one that went out there in Europe to Croatia and signed Tony Kukoc. That's when the Europe ball was starting to get recognized a little bit more, things of that nature. And obviously, getting Dennis Rodman for those last 3 championships. So Jerry Krause, even though how he's the one that ended this dynasty, they should have gave the Bulls another year to see if they could have won another one, or at least let them go out swinging until they lose. Why break this team up? They're in the middle of it. They just won 3 in a row again. Why would you break that up? And you could argue they would have won 8 in a row if Jordan ever retired. Probably would have won 8 in a row. I'm sorry, Houston. You ain't winning those championships. And Jordan was still playing for the Bulls, especially he left in the peak of his career. And that's the only reason why they lost to Orlando, because he only played 17 games. He didn't have his legs under him. And plus, he was playing a totally different sport. It's the only reason why he won. And they still went 6 games. Look what happened when Jordan came back the following year. Y'all got swept. Ran it back, got swept. Okay, that's just how great Michael Jordan was. Okay, but Jerry Krause made some good moves, but I just think he was so butthurt because obviously at the end of the day, the players are the ones that are on the floor. They're the ones that they're putting the product on the floor. They're the ones that are sacrificing everything. They're the ones, doing whatever it takes to win these games. And as Jerry Krause, you're just sitting there watching, my guy. So, of course, the players should get the most of the credit. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Frankie, what do you think?
There's everything that Nick said is what I was going to say. I mean, Strauss and Jordan, their egos both egos were big, and they both wanted to be the alpha male. I still think that, like Nick said, if it wasn't for Krause, I think the Bulls win in '99, and I think they lose in either 2000 or '01 against Kobe and Shaq. Because I think that was going to be the year that Kobe would have legitimately not get the torch handed to him. I think Kobe Bryant would have literally ripped the torch out of Jordan's hands in 2000 or 2001. So I would have kept going. Like Nick said, just go until you guys can't win.
That's true. That is true. I would definitely say, Nick, I know I've had this conversation with one of my friends about if Jordan never retired those 2 years that Houston won, and he'll argue that Houston still wins those because of Hakeem. But I told him, I said, there's no way in hell.
Who's guarding Jordan?
That's the thing.
And Pippen with Jordan, I mean, Pippen as a number 2 option. I mean, think about this. When they won in Utah, Game 6 for the 6th championship, Scottie Pippen's back. He was a decoy. He wasn't even really on the floor that much.
No.
So Scottie Pippen, I think, scored 2 points. He got the dunk at the beginning of the game, and that was or maybe he didn't score double digits or anything like that. You know what I mean? So Jordan literally just took over that game by himself. Saw what happened. They're down 3, gets a layup, gets the steal on Karl Malone, then drains the shot that pretty much all they needed was a stop, and John Stockton almost makes that 3. That's how the game ended. Just how good Michael Jordan was, man. He always found ways to win games. Now, you could talk about his first 7 years that he struggled and stuff like that, but like Max Kellerman said, all it took was one All-Star. Look at all these teams now presently. They have 3, 4 All-Stars on the same team, still can't win championships. It took Michael Jordan one All-Star.
That's
and
true.
Think about it back then. The league was so more competitive. Even 8 seeds, like when the Bulls played Miami as the 8 seed, Tim Hardaway Jr., Alonzo Mourning, they had 2 All-Stars. They're an 8 seed. You don't see that anymore because everybody's so top-heavy now.
I think LeBron James for that one.
You know what I'm saying too. So Houston, those were great teams. But Dennis Rodman, man, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, I'm sorry, man. And Ron Harper, they had some dogs defensively. That's the thing. The Bulls were the best defensive team in the league. They're one of the best offenses in the league. They also had snipers and Tony Kukoc and things in that nature too. So the Bulls and Phil Jackson, man, the greatest coaches of all time.
Yeah, and just I think it's crazy.
Man, there's no way.
I still think it's crazy that Phil Jackson, right? It was basically like, Phil, this is your last year coaching the Bulls when Jerry Krause said that for the '98 season. And the fact is in the documentary, Jerry Reinsdorf talks about how he could have, prevented that from happening, and he could have stepped in and stopped it because he knew that they could win in '99. Even Phil knew that, and he said hey,
they would have won one more.
Yeah, they would have.
They would have won one more.
They would have been San Antonio. I don't think San Antonio wins that. There was the lockout season and stuff. And I just don't see Tim Duncan winning that one. But I do think that they would have eventually lost. I think as Jordan continued to get older, what we saw happen in Washington with him, an injury, I feel like it's going to happen in 2000, 2001, probably. Somewhere around there where his age would have started showing a little bit more. But I think, that's the thing is we'll never know because it's an if. And, we can't see that. But I definitely think that, yes, I think that Jerry Krause does deserve credit for the talents he found. Guys like Charles Oakley was a guy he drafted. Obviously, yes, acquiring the draft rights to Scottie Pippen was a great one. finding a guy like Tony Kukoc, and then you have multiple moves that you made with Dennis Rodman, even Steve Kerr, bringing in a guy like Steve Kerr, a 3-point shooter. He's made some huge shots. He was a great shooter for the Bulls. And, even like having a guy like John Paxson on that team. And it's kind of funny, but I feel like it's always like Jerry Reinsdorf, unfortunately, has too much favoritism. And that's why you bring a guy like John Paxson, who won you 3 championships with Jordan, right? Mm-hmm. As one of your like head executives for your team. And I just feel like it's like, look, John Paxson did a great job. His first, like, I'd say like I'll give him like the first like 8 years of him like being like part of the front office. Like the Bulls were good. We'll give them that. They were good. But after that 2014, 2015 season, that's when everything kind of fell off. And it was just kind of like, there's no more magic. Like you guys were taking like these like late draft picks, guys like Taj Gibson, guys like Jimmy Butler. And I'm probably blanking on a couple other people that they've taken that were
and
good.
Don't forget either, and the Bulls fans initially, a lot of them did not like the Joakim Noah pick.
And that's the thing.
There was a lot of Bulls fans that hated the pick.
That's funny.
I loved him when in college because he played his ass off.
Most of the Bulls fans were not happy with the pick. You could go back and look at the news when it came out that they were not happy. But it ended up being a phenomenal pick.
Yeah, he's one of the most loved Bulls players of all time.
I wanted to go back a little bit too. People forget that the 89-90 season, Scotty gets a migraine in Game 7.
Oh, yeah, against the Pistons. Yep.
They probably would have won the game, and they probably wouldn't won the championship.
And that's the thing.
It's very unfortunate. Like all these Jordan haters, they kind of bring up all the first few years how he couldn't get out of the first round. Like, dude, when you're going up against the historic Boston Celtics team, and it's Michael Jordan by himself scoring 63 and still isn't enough. Put any other superstar player you want on that Bulls team. Tell me they could get a game against that prime Larry Bird, Kevin McHale,
had nobody else on that team.
Dennis Johnson. Are you out of your minds? And plus, going to get those Pistons teams, those were good teams. Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer. As much as we hate the guy, he was a solid player. Dennis Rodman was on those teams too. Yep. Like that, like, and people forget too, back in those days, like how the West is a lot tougher than the East. The East was a lot tougher than the West. The road to get to the finals was so tough every single year. Look at those teams, man. Even they went with Jordan, then I think it was Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals against Indiana. They could have lost that game at home. Look how talented that team was. Mark Jackson, Reggie Miller, Rick Schmitz, Chris Mullin. I think a lot of people in the younger generation really need to go back and do some research, man, because a lot of these teams had so much talent on each team. Yeah. It's not as top heavy. It was never that top heavy.
That's true.
And people forget too about the Houston days too. The first year that Jordan went to play baseball, if it wasn't for the blown call against the Knicks, Bulls would have been in the finals. They would have made the finals without Scottie Pippen. Now, I don't know if they win the championship, but that first year, people don't understand that's how good the Bulls were.
Yeah.
So the people that think that Houston would have won those championships, no. I'm sorry, you would have lost both years in a row. The Bulls would have won 8 in a row.
And that's a record that would never be broken. And I think, too, Jordan's playoff record has not been broken. It still holds to this day. So, I mean, we can argue all we want, but you can't lie with the numbers. So, at the end of the day, Bulls are 6-0. Jordan has, honestly, so many iconic moments in the playoffs. And as much as like we can talk about the the Nick Anderson play that happened when he came back and stuff, and people will harp on that one as well, look at that happened, right? But the guy had just come back from playing baseball. And
literally
just gotten back.
People forget he only played 17 regular season games, and people forget his 3rd or 5th game back. I don't remember. The dude was playing baseball for a year and a half. Barely has been practicing, still in a baseball type of body when your shoulders have to be bigger a little bit. Now you got to get back to your basketball body. 3rd game back for playing baseball for a year and a half. You drop 55 at the Garden. Name me another player that can do that. Name me a player that could go for a 3-peat, leave in the prime of his career, come back, still be the best player in the league after taking 18 months off, and win 3 more and dominate and completely dominate. Now these Jordan haters be, oh, it was a gambling issue.
I think it was too. Let's not don't lie.
Proven till innocent.
I agree. He's innocent until proven guilty. But Jordan did have a gambling problem, and I think they wanted to protect him in the face of the league. Hey, Jordan, go away for a year and a half. Keep this hush hush. Could I be wrong? Yeah, totally. But why would somebody leave? In the prime of their career, and then magically fall out of love with the sport, and then magically
his father's dad played a huge part of that.
That's
true too. Yeah, that's true too.
That definitely played a huge part, and I just can't stand today's people, Alex, and Frankie, in our age group. Oh, LeBron's the GOAT.
No,
I think are so biased now because they want to say that they watched the greatest player of all time. Even players in the NBA today, a lot of them are saying LeBron's the GOAT or whatever, just because they want to say that they played with the greatest player of all time. It's all biasy.
I get it.
But if you really look at the stats, yeah, LeBron's played 6-7 more years. Okay, that's why LeBron's gonna have more rebounds, more assists, more steals, whatever. But
yeah.
Make comparisons of as many seasons that Jordan played. Jordan's winning a lot of those categories.
Played 13 seasons, 11 on the Bulls.
And also, it was much harder to score back then. The three-point line wasn't really as existent. His second year in the league, he averaged 37 points per game with the three-point line not being a goddamn thing.
And most guys don't even average that, even with the three-point shot.
Harden with the three-point shot didn't average that.
No.
And he took 23s a game.
No, I agree.
I'm exaggerating a little bit. Of course, he didn't take 23s a game, but you get my point. He was taking double-digit threes or at least 7-8 threes a game, like most of these players are today and stuff like that. At the three-point line. And people forget, too, the later stages of Jordan's career, he almost shot 40. He was shooting 40% from three.
Yeah.
People just thought that he just couldn't shoot the basketball. He was capable of shooting the basketball, but when you're that...
They were talking about that.
With that athletic ability, with that vertical ability that he had, and your mid-range game, when you know that couldn't be stopped, why would you want to go to something else when you already know that they can't stop that to begin with? I think that a lot of people in today's day don't take that into consideration. Imagine if prime Larry Bird was playing in this era.
He averaged 50. He averaged 50. It's not even close.
If they can play with the same.
Now you can argue. Obviously, the game was much more physical back then. The teams were more fairly constructed and stuff. Just like I said, the Miami Heat day, when the Bulls played the Heat in the first round, they had 2 All-Stars. You're not going to really see 2 All-Stars as an 8 seed in today's days. You're really not going to see that so much.
You won't. That doesn't exist.
But do you want to make an argument that the league is more talented? There's more talented players? Yeah, you can make that argument, but with the rule changes and stuff, how do you really know that answer? Where you can't hand check, when you can't do a bunch of things.
What do you mean more?
How do you really know?
What do you mean more talented?
Name me a Kevin Durant in the 80s and 90s.
I don't give a shit. Give me Michael Jordan.
Name me a 7-footer that could do that. Every 7-footer back then was just in the post. Yeah, Karl Malone had. Karl Malone. Karl Malone had a mid-range jumper and stuff. But stop Jokic that's shooting 47% from three this postseason as a 7-footer. Go stop that.
His big ass when you come out in the paint. That's basketball.
Guess what? He can still dominate down there too.
I completely agree with you. But the 3-point line, in my opinion, has changed the game for the worse.
Yeah.
Everyone has a hard on for these. I don't know if I could say that on air, but whatever. Everyone has a hard on for all these 3 points and 4-point shots. It's dude, Jesus Christ. Whatever happened to the mid range? Whatever happened to boxing people down? I say this. I agree with Frankie to a certain extent. Now, is players like Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, Trae Young, are those guys so excited to watch on a nightly basis? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But when you're starting to see these 11, 10, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds in America, these coaches are not really teaching the fundamentals of basketball. These kids are playing what they see on TV now.
Yeah, no, 100%.
It's ridiculous.
I'll be at a local gym I go to, for example. They have Little League games going on Sundays and stuff, and you're seeing these 10-year-olds doing step back threes and things of that nature, and they're completely airball. They're taking horrible shots. They're not learning the legit fundamentals of the game of basketball because 100%. They believe what they see on TV is what they have to do to get to the league.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Nick, I could give even like an example, just playing pickup basketball, right? I mean, like there's guys I'll play, they're taller than me. They're shooting the three. I mean, like they drive to the basket, of course, but there's a lot of guys that will take the three. I mean, you watch a bunch of guys just like go to an open gym. Like you're going to see about 80% of these guys try and do some step back, the 1 foot cross, like the 1 foot step over and then shooting the three, right? And that's all you're seeing with a lot of guys now. And I think that obviously because the 3-point shot really, I think, took off when Steph Curry really started becoming more recognizable. And I think when I would say about 2013, 2014, 2015, that was when it really started becoming valuable. And that's what we value now.
Mm-hmm.
So I get what you're saying too about the whole, like, the changing of the league. And I think something too that you brought up earlier that I was going to say, and I do agree. I feel like a lot of people, even our generation, still argue Jordan is better. Now, maybe it's just more around the Chicago area that I see that. And there's probably a lot of younger people that are still like, oh, LeBron. So I'll say this. I think that Jordan is the greatest player to have ever played the game of basketball. Like if you have to have one guy take the shot at the end of the game, you're gonna take Jordan. You're not taking LeBron. People will argue the whole LeBron's made more game winners, but it's like LeBron's been playing in way more games than Jordan ever played. So it's like, let's be fair about that. I think LeBron is the best longevity player. That's what I'll say. Like
100%.
That's where I'd
him or Kareem.
Yeah, Kareem would be another one too. And like you could argue Kareem because of the rings and like other like statistics that are there.
And here's another thing too. A lot of these fans, like they just look at the stats that they're putting on TV sometimes that they try to make it as that favors LeBron more.
They're called bronze sexuals.
Just to be able to have a conversation, right? Yeah, Jordan. I mean, LeBron might have more go-ahead field goals in the postseason and stuff. First of all, yeah, you did play 20 years and stuff, but Jordan never allowed a game 7. And Jordan was so good. He dominated the entire league, bro. Like, I'm sorry. LeBron's a fantastic player, the greatest in this generation, no doubt. You know what I'm saying? But, like, everybody else is winning. Look at Steph's got 4 titles. Everybody else is winning. Tim Duncan won 5 titles. Who was winning in the Jordan? Yeah, in the 80s, obviously, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, but Jordan was a young pup. When Jordan got to his peak in the 90s, who was winning? I'm just saying Jordan won 6 championships, and just because he missed 2 years, used to won 2 championships. Like, nobody was winning in the Jordan era until he went to go play baseball.
That's true. No, that's true.
I'm just saying too, never allowed a game 7. Yeah, he played a game 7 against Indiana in the conference finals and stuff. They still won that game, things of that nature. But like a lot of these games in the Jordan era, like they weren't close. Look at the one game when they won their 6th championship. I think it was game 3 going to Chicago because they split in Utah. They had to get a split. Mm-hmm. They blew out Utah by 50, bro. When you see that in the finals now these days, they blew them out by 50 points. And you're talking about John Stockton, Karl Malone. This is a 64, 66 win team.
Yeah, they're the best team in the West for like 2 straight years. I mean, there's like, you can't argue that. So I definitely agree. I think, there's been a lot of players that have eaten in the LeBron era. I definitely agree with that. I would say Tim Duncan's a little more Kobe era. I feel like
that's true. Yeah, that's true. But I'm just saying,
I get what you're saying.
They did beat a LeBron loaded team when Tim Duncan was older. That wasn't even Tim Duncan in his prime. That wasn't Tony Parker in his prime. Yeah. That wasn't Ginobili in his prime. Yeah, no. They were older, and they had a young Claw and Kawhi Leonard that really helped big time. They had shooters like Danny Green. They had a Gary Neal. They had some snipers on that team. Patty Mills was another one too. But I'm just saying, though, like, LeBron's made the finals so many times and stuff like that. Look at how easy the Eastern Conference is in those runs that he had. I'm sorry. Kobe would have made the finals 12 years in a row if he was playing with any team LeBron was on.
Yeah, I would definitely.
I'm sorry, who was the best competition LeBron played in the East? In the Miami days, they had a young Paul George. He wasn't fully developed yet. Derrick Rose.
Probably said that Bulls team.
Teams.
That Bulls team probably.
Atlanta was a 1 seed one year, but they weren't a threat. They smoked them in the Eastern Conference semis the 1 year. And I'm sorry, Toronto, DeMar, they were never going to beat LeBron. They just weren't. Now you want to talk about, is the NBA Finals competition tougher? You could make that argument, because Jordan, Jordan, as great as he is, he played some tough competition, but I don't think any team that he played in the finals would have beat any of those Golden State teams. I was just called like it is. I'm sorry, but with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, they're 4 Hall of Famers. Name me a team that Jordan played that have 4 Hall of Famers on the team. There isn't. So you can make the argument. But on the road to the Eastern Conference, LeBron had the easiest path in NBA history.
Yeah.
Besides the Bill Russell when there was only 8 teams.
Okay. I agree with that. I agree. I think that his path was pretty easy. I think actually that 14-15.
Now I'll say this though, even though Jordan, they never played a team like the Warriors, the Bulls would have beaten the Golden State Warriors in the 7-game series. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be biased just because I live in Chicago and I'm a Bulls fan and stuff like that. But Golden State, it would be a matchup nightmare. Think of this. You have Scotty on KD.
Shut him down.
You could put Jordan or Harper on Steph running around those screens. If Tristan Thompson can follow Steph around those screens, you don't think Ron Harper and Jordan can? Jordan and vice versa. Whoever's guarding Steph, the other one could guard Klay. And Dennis Rodman would have gotten Draymond's head so bad, Draymond Green would have got ejected half of those games.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. You had Phil Jackson. You had a sniper and Tony Kukoc. I'm sorry. Like, and also, too, like, what era are we playing in? Like Shaq said, you get to play in this cupcake era, or you get to play in the big boy era. Because if you're playing with the 80s and the 90s rules, Golden State will get 1 game just because of how good they can shoot the basketball.
They ain't getting 1 game. They ain't getting a game.
1 game. I'll give them a game.
1 game. Even though
they'll get a game.
Twisted his ankle.
No, they'll get a game. They'll get a game just because of how good. Yeah,
like once.
Yeah, they'll get a game just because of how deadly they can shoot the basketball. They can get hot 1 game, right? But
they're dangerous.
And even in today's rules, who's guarding Jordan, bro? Who's gonna stop him from getting to the free throw line too? The guy would average 20. He would shoot 20 to 25 free throws a night, and he would be. And defensively, too, even though you couldn't get away with certain stuff, defensively, this is one of the best defensive teams in NBA history. Harper was a dog. Jordan was a dog. Pippen was a dog. Robin was a dog. And Luke Longley, yeah, he was kind of funky, but he could protect the rim.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever worked, I definitely agree with that. Nick,
I'm just saying. I'm sorry.
Nick, you were cooking, bro. You were cooking. You're all good, man. No, man, I think this has been a great conversation though. Like, honestly, like I've enjoyed this. I think this has been like a really like fun convo to talk about the Bulls, going like even like old school to like early 2010s to like where we are now. But I think that we can all like agree, I feel like right now the Bulls are still in this badly run organization, but the success is just not there anymore. So I will say,
Frankie, they're like the purgatory, like South Park. They're on the plane. They still don't know where they're going.
Yeah, it's like a lot of places now where you're so well known. Like when you think of the Chicago Bulls, you think of arguably one of the greatest basketball franchises of all time. And then you see this shit show disaster on TV. You're like, oh Jesus, what?
Also, they're one of the most historic teams in all sports just because of their fan base. Yeah. Now, they're not bigger than the Celtics, Lakers when it comes to NBA stuff, but you can argue that they're probably like, look at even games on the road. They go on the road.
Oh, yeah. Chicago fans are loyal, man.
Bulls fans, no matter where they're playing.
That's a lot of Chicago. Like Cubs fans are insane.
Oh, my God.
You see Bears fans, Blackhawks fans, too. They travel very well.
Yeah, Chicago fans are loyal. I definitely will agree with that. I think we have one of the best fan bases in the whole country.
I'm just saying too, because like even when the Bulls were bad after like the Rose Butler era for a little bit, they were really pathetic. They were still top 4, 5, maybe number 3 in ticket sales every year still.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. All right, guys. Well, I definitely want to say again, thank you, Frankie, for being on the pod today.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Of course. And where can the listeners follow you on social media?
So my Twitter and Instagram, it's at Frankie LaVere. And that's really all I have. I don't have like Snapchat. Oh God, Snapchat or TikTok. I don't do all that stuff. Just Instagram and Twitter. But I just post mostly about sports and then weightlifting stuff. So I might annoy some of you people.
No, man.
I posted a lot of toxic masculinity, right, Nick?
Yes, you do. A lot of it. Daily.
Oh,
daily, minutely. Minutely.
Yeah.
Well, follow Frankie on Instagram and Twitter, or X if you want to call it that, because that's now the name of it. And Nick.
Oh, X. That's
yeah,
right.
X.
Jesus Christ, it's still Twitter to me.
It's gonna always be Twitter, man. But no, guys, I definitely enjoyed this. Thank you guys for listening until the end of the video. For Nick, myself, and Frankie, this has been another episode of All Ball, No Foul. Thank you. Have a good night, and we will see you soon.